Alright guys, welcome to this 10th Django tutorial video, and I'm not gonna waste any time in this video because this video is gonna be pretty long, so I just want to get into it. So in this video we are going to be building this contact page and this contact form, and we are going to be connecting this form to the database so that whenever we enter the values and submit the form, the data will go directly to the database. So the first thing we need to do is actually create the form on our contact page. So for that, I've created this GitHub link, which is github.com/Bhatt personal website bootstrap 4. You can just go to this link, and this project is a little bit old, but don't worry about it. We are just gonna copy some code from over here. I'm not gonna go into this code too much, but just scroll down, and here is the form that I want to copy paste. So just copy this from over here, and I'm gonna paste it inside my contact.html page. So instead of this is the contact page. I'm gonna paste this over here. Make sure it's formatted properly by pressing Ctrl+Alt+L for PyCharm, and now it's properly formatted. And this is a typical form of Bootstrap 4, and actually this might be just like a copy paste of a form that I found on Bootstrap. So anyways, this container, make sure that the form is in the center, and then obviously every form or any kind of thing in Bootstrap 4 contains rows and columns. I'm not going to go into that a lot, but anyways, we have these three elements of the form. The first element is for email, the second element is for subject, and the third element is for message, and then we have a submit button. So we can go to our contact page now, and we can press enter, and as you can see, we have a beautiful form over here which says email, subject, and message. Now what we are going to do is we are going to go to this form, and every form, if you are not into web development, I'll just give you a little bit of an idea of what a form has, what kind of an arguments a form has. So every form has two main things. The first thing is the where, and the second thing is the how. So where do you want this form to go after you have pressed the submit button? So actually we want this form to go to our contact page. So if we go to our urls.py file, we want this form to go to our /contact URL. And how do we want it to go? We want it to go using something known as post method. So we are going to get into what is post method and what is get method, but this where is actually represented by an argument called an action, and this how is represented by something known as the method. So we're just going to write method equals to this. So now we can remove this where and how because I've explained it to you. This action is the where we want this form to go after we have pressed the submit button, and the method is how do we want this form to go after we have pressed the submit button. So we can remove both of them. And now what we want in action is that we want this form to go after we have pressed the submit button to this contact page over here, and we are going to handle this contact page. After he goes to this contact page, actually is going to go to this def contact function over here, and we are going to handle the form over in this views.py file. So over here we are just going to write, if you are confused a little bit, don't worry about it, just follow along and you'll understand what is happening. So we want it to go to the contact page, so we are going to write URL and then contact over here just like we did in the previous videos, and then inside method we are going to write post. Now what is this post method and what is this? So sometimes you'll see a get method over here. So what is a post method and what is a get method? So whenever you visit a website, so for example, when you just press enter over here, this is actually a get method. It is getting the website from the server. But whenever we enter a form and press the submit button, it goes in a form of post method. Obviously you can send it as a get method, but it will be very it's not going to be very secure, and it's going to show all the values in the URL. So typically the rule is whenever we are visiting a website, that is a get request to the server, and whenever we are submitting the form, it is a post request to the server. In post, you can't actually see the values being sent in the URL, so it's a little bit more secure. But anyways, how do we find out whether this is a post or a get in our views.py file? That is the main question. So right now what's happening inside our form is whenever we press the submit button, it's going to go to this action equals to URL contact. It's going to go to our urls.py file, and then it's going to search for this name contact, and then it's going to go to this contact path, and this contact path says go to this views.contact. So it's going to go inside this views.py file inside our my site app, and then it's going to go to this contact function inside views.py file. And here there is this thing called request, which contains whether the method is get or post. So what we are going to do is we are just going to print out request.method in our console. So what we are going to do is we are just going to refresh it once, because you never know, Django has all these problems in run server. So we are just going to refresh it once. And now what we are going to do is we are going to press enter over here. And if we go back to our console, you can see it has printed out get. But what if we press on the submit button on our contact form? So if we press on the submit button, it says CSRF verification failed. So I need to do one more thing before I actually submit the form and check out what is happening in the post or the get request. So there is something known as the CSRF token inside our Django. So what CSRF is, let me actually just first add it inside a form that I'll tell you what it is. So you just need this percentage tag or a delimiter over here, and this you just have to write CSRF underscore token, and that's pretty much it. So what exactly is this CSRF underscore token? Just forget about the post and the get for now. We are going to get into it after a minute, but just focus on what is this CSRF underscore token. So this token is utilized by Django to make sure that CSRF hacking can't be done on your website. So CSRF basically stands for cross-site request forgery, not forgery, what the heck. So this CSRF is kind of a hacking method for web development, and it's used by security professionals to kind of find vulnerabilities in your website. So Django makes sure that you don't have this kind of vulnerability, and you can tell Django that you don't want this kind of vulnerability by adding this tag over here, which is called CSRF underscore token. So if you go back to this page, it says forbidden CSRF verification failed because CSRF token missing or incorrect. So whenever, and it says actually in a template, we have to add this tag, this template tag. So what Django does is it's just making sure that our form is secure. So whenever we add a form inside Django, just under this form line, we just have to add this tag of CSRF underscore token. So make sure that our website is secure. All right. Now what we can do is we can just do it again. Let's run the server again. And now let's understand what this post and this get request is. So if we go to our contact function, now we can just press enter over here, and this should be a get request because we just requested the website from the server, nothing fancy. And now when we click on the submit button, it's actually going to open the contact page again, and that is what we wanted. But over here you can see it says post request instead of the get request, because we are submitting the form and we have added that we want the method to be as post. So this is kind of the difference between post and get. Now the next step is that we want the form items. So for example, when we kind of enter stuff over here, we want all of this stuff to go from this contact form to actually our views.py file, and now when we get it into our views.py file, we can actually send it to our database. But this first step is to send the data from contact.html, and when we press on the submit button, to this views.py file. So for that, we are just going to add some names over here. So in email, in this input one, we can just add a name. Let's call it email. I forgot the single quote. What am I doing? Email. And then we are going to do basically the same thing with all of them. In this subject one, we're just going to write subject, nothing too weird. And inside this one, we can just write message. And we are going to be using these names for retrieving the data inside this views.py file. Now when we press this submit button inside our contact form, what it's going to do is going to send all of these items to our views.py file inside this request function, and we can retrieve all this data by using this request one. So what we are going to do is we are just going to write if request.method equals to post. Let's write post. Then we are going to do something. Let's write do something, hashtag do something. And if it's not a post request, forgot to add a colon over here. What am I doing? And if it's not a post request, then we can just write else. And in else, that means it's a get request, but we're gonna just return the page of contact form over here. And over here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna just see and if our submit form is working or not. So we're just gonna print maybe the request dot post dot get, and inside this we are gonna write the name of the form's value that we want. So over here we want the name of email. So we just want the value of this email. So that's why inside our views.py, let's actually close all of these other tabs. So inside our this views.py, we can just write request.post.get the value of email. So we're just gonna write email, and this is actually the name that we have given over here in our contact.html. So if this was EMLR, we would have written EMLR over here, but it's not. Let's just let it be email, just to tell you guys. That's why I added an R over here. So now let's see if we are actually getting the value of email or not. And what we are also going to do, let's actually also return this contact.html file after it has printed our email inside our console. So we can just stop this server and let's restart it again, because I don't trust the server in Django, to be very honest. It kind of messes it up all the time. So now we can go and press enter, and now we can put in my email and press on the submit button. And if we go back to our console, as you can see, the email has been printed. So now we know that we are getting our items from contact.html to our views.py file. We are going to be doing the same thing for the subject and the message. So we can just go over here and actually let's remove this, and we are going to store all of these three values inside different variables. I don't know why a mosquito is biting me. Who the heck has mosquito these days? Sorry for the interruption, but anyways, let's get back to it. So we can just write request.post.get, and we want the email. So we are going to write the email, and we can just kind of copy and paste this like 2 more times. And instead of the email, let's write subject, and instead of this, we can just write message. I mean, pretty obvious stuff. You can just, I'm so lazy that I'm not even gonna type email over here. I'm just gonna paste it. Just gonna paste this over here also. All right, so now we have the email, the subject, and the message inside our views.py file. But how exactly do we save it inside our models? So in the previous video, if you remember, we talked about how to use the shell to connect to our database. We are going to literally be doing the same thing inside this views.py file. What we did in the last video was we first imported the student and the contact into the shell. So we're going to do the same thing with our views.py file. We're going to write from .models import contact, because we just need the contact form. We don't need the inside our models.py. We just created this for example purposes, but we only need this contact one. We are just going to import this contact model. And .models is basically I've already talked about it, but dot is basically saying go to the app in which I'm currently in, that is the My Site app, and search for the models file that is over here, and look for this model which is called contact and import it into this views.py file. So now we have imported this contact one, and now what we can do, just like we did in the last video, we can write C equals to and then contact, and then we can just store all the arguments one by one. We can just write email equals to email, and actually just to make sure that you don't get confused between this parameter and argument, we can just write it as email underscore r, so that it's kind of like email that we have received from the form. And we can just write email underscore r, and we can write email underscore r over here, and then we can just write the message equals to message underscore r, and then we can do the same thing for the subject, but let's do it over here. Subject equals to subject underscore r, comma, and that's pretty much it. And after that, we obviously have to save this inside our database. So we can just write c.save, and that's pretty much it. So guys, I think we have completed the form part inside our project. So let's just stop this run server and refresh it so we can see what's happening behind the scenes. So let's wait for the migrations. And actually, I just want to open up the administration panel also for the demonstration purposes. And if we go to contacts, you can see there are 2 items over here right now. And hopefully our form is refreshed. Now we can just write maybe anastasia@gmail.com, right? I love, and in the message just write 50 shades of gray. I don't know if you like 50 shades of gray. I think it's fine. A lot of people are like saying 50 shades of gray is shit, and it's like female porn and stuff. I mean, I haven't like watching the movies and stuff, but I have read all of its books. I don't know what it says about me, but I actually liked it, to be honest. But anyways, let's click on submit, and let's go back to our over here, and if we click on refresh, and you can see there is this new item that has been added inside our database. So congratulations guys, you have just learned how to add a form and how to connect the form to this views.py file and how to connect this views.py file to our database. Now just to take it from the top, what we did in this video, I'm just gonna cover everything at once, and if you have already understood what is happening, you can skip this video now if you want to, but I'm just gonna make sure that you guys understand what is happening. So the first thing that I did was I took this form from this link, just copy and paste this link in your browser and you'll be able to get this form. And after I got this form, then I kind of just added two things, that is the action and the method, that is post. So action is basically responsible where the page goes after I press the submit button, and the method is how the page goes. So in action, I wrote URL contact. So after I press the submit button, it goes to the urls.py file and it looks for this name equals to contact. It finds it and then it redirects it, the website, to the website.com/contact. And then it goes to this views file and searches for the contact function. In the contact function, it sees whether the request is of post type or the get type. If it's of the post type, it's gonna execute all of these things, and if it's of the get type, then it's gonna only execute this one. And then what's the difference between the get and post? Get is just when we kind of refresh the page, and the post is when we are submitting a form or some kind of important thing that we don't want to submit in the URL and it doesn't show up in the URL. So post is a little bit more secure. Then we kind of change the names of these elements inside a form so that we can retrieve them later by writing request.post.get, and this is the name that we gave in the form. We stored it inside these three variables, and then over here, just like we did in the last video, we created this contact, and then inside this we wrote email is equals to, and what is these three arguments over here? Email, subject, and message. These are basically what we declared in the contact class. Email, subject, and message, we have to put in the same thing. If we were doing it with a student class, what we would have done is, I'm just going to show you with the example maybe over here so that it doesn't show up. So what we would have done it, we would have written C equals to student, not student, student, and inside this I would have written first name equals to whatever we got from the contact.html form, we could have written over here. Then in the last name, we would have written last name equals to what we got in the form. So it kind of just there to help you out. And I got this first name and the last name from the models of .py file, and these are the two things that I wrote over here. So hopefully now you have properly understood what is happening behind the scenes. And then we basically saved the form and returned this page over here. Now what we can do is we can also, instead of returning the contact.html again, we can just return a thank you page. So we can just create maybe a new HTML file, and I'm not gonna make it very fancy. Maybe I'm gonna make it fancy later, but for right now I'm just gonna maybe go to index.html, copy this thing from over here in the thank.html, paste it, and I'm just gonna write thank you. Right, thank you. I'll get back to you as soon as I can, and that's pretty much it. So in this views.py, instead of contact.html, they can just write index, not index actually, thank.html, and that looks good. Thank.html also looks good. So let's go back to our manage.py file, click on stop, run the server again. Sometimes the server refreshes itself, sometimes it doesn't, it's just weird, and I'm basically teaching you guys, so I don't want to mess it up. That's why I kind of refresh it always. So let's try it out again. In this one we can just write this ID, and over here we can just write this works, and over here we can just write Hell yeah, it works. Click on submit, and now when we click on submit, it says thank you, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And if we go to our contacts, you can see there is this new email that has been added. So guys, this is pretty much it for this video, and congratulations, because this was a pretty important video, because when I was learning Django, this was the most difficult thing for me to learn, the simple concept of forms and how they worked inside Django. Now there also another way to handle forms inside Django, and those are known as model forms. I don't know whether I'll go through the model forms or not, maybe I will, but if you want to have a look at it, you can just go to Google and type in model forms and stuff. But I think you can do a lot of stuff by just using these simple forms inside Django, and these are the basic structures which you have to use for making complex websites. And one more thing before I end this video was, I just wanted to make sure that you guys got the proper documentation for this models.py file. If you don't know, if you're still confused about what models and stuff are, you can just go to Google and type in models Django or something like that. It will give you a proper definition of what a model is. And if you want to know more about CSRF, this OWASP website is actually the perfect way to know more about OWASP. Not OWASP, the CSR attack. And I used to do a lot of security stuff, so I kind of know about it, but I've already recorded this video for a long time, so I'm gonna end this video now because I'm blabbling a lot. But yeah guys, this is pretty much it. I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.